different guy. All right, so if you go to my Twitter, you can find, I retweeted this. Check it out. We're going to look at it together. It's really cool. Co2, I think, is maybe one of the best hedge funds. So somebody found this. Conference presentation. Tech is driven by major waves of innovation. So they're a tech fund, if anybody doesn't know. Mainframe in the 60s, PCs in the 80s, networking in the 90s, desktop internet in the 2000s, mobile internet in 2010s, cloud and SaaS 2015 to 2020. I'd argue it started before that. And, of course, AI today. And this is why NASDAQ has outperformed the Dow Jones quite a lot. Last 40 years by 3%, last 20 years by 5%, and last 10 years by 7%. Tech is eating the world. Will AI reach 75% of all market cap? That's what they're conjecturing will happen. And you can see their map of the 1800s, where banks were most of the S&P, or most of the market cap in the world. And you can see that in the 1800s, the latter 1800s, it was mostly railroads. And then in the 20s to 60s, it was energy and materials. And then tech kind of took over. So what percentage of all market cap will be tech and AI especially? I think probably a lot. What's the catch? NVIDIA had 7 50% drawdowns since its IPO. And many brave people held it throughout. Apple had 5. Amazon had 4. NASDAQ had 3 gigantic peak to trough drawdowns. The dot-com bubble, which I've mentioned. The great financial crisis was less than that. That's why I always point to the dot-com bubble. It was really wild. COVID was 36%, and I think we'll see a similar size correction, quite frankly. How has tech leadership changed? Not a whole lot. It's largely been the same. Apple, Microsoft, Google, Meta, Amazon, Samsung dropping a little bit there from 10 years ago. Oracle, Tencent. Where's Tencent? There it is. Disney dropping almost off the list. Visa still up there. IBM dropping off the list and then coming back. Qualcomm dropping off the list and staying off the list? I don't know. MasterCard, SAP, Tata, eBay, Baidu, Accenture, HP, Booking, and Texas Instruments. Look how small the market cap you needed just to be in the top 25. You didn't need much. So it's hard to stay on top, is their conclusion. From 1995 to 2025, a good chunk of the list changes. The dropouts have done fine, but I guess they're saying they all underperform because the NASDAQ did better than most of these. Obviously, Intel and PayPal have been much worse. IBM did bounce back from number 1 in 95 to almost forgotten in 2020 to sort of back there now. They made 3 or 4 big calls. They made a call called work from home. That was not a great trend. The trend fizzled. And they missed crypto. They should have been long crypto, they said. Macro meltdown they thought would happen. That's not what happened. AI super cycle, they've kind of hit that out of the park. So Sentiment is usually a poor indicator of returns, is their point. Um, in fact, when business sentiment is really low, you get um, a better return usually. Is the Mag 7 reign ending? They think so. There'll be new winners like these energy companies with electricity shortages, AI agents with reasoning, Palantir, Oracle, Snowflake, and then more demand for semiconductors, Broadcom, TSMC. Mag 7 has not done great this year so far, whereas these stocks have all done really well, as you can see. A few scares in AI. There was an ROI scare. Wall Street Journal and Sequoia covered this. DeepSeek was wild too, and then Microsoft had a capex, cancellation. But again, Code 2 calling for the AI super cycle, kind of consensus in some ways. But again, Code 2, my favorite tech fund, basically. At least publicly traded, at least hedge fund. They're also a venture capital fund. So big moves in large caps signal new tech waves, the defining moments, the internet moment, Google, the iPhone moment in Apple, the mobile moment for Meta, the cloud moment for Amazon, the AI moment for Nvidia, and the reasoning moment for Microsoft. Microsoft, these comments were wild. 100 trillion tokens this quarter, up 5x year over year, 50 trillion tokens just last month. Just exponential growth there on tokens. Cloud CapEx also gone hog wild. And I want to show you that in a second. This is really good presentation. You can find it on my X account. No, hedge funds are notoriously secret about publishing reports. That's why I wanted to show you one of the biggest, best hedge funds publishes something like that. You want to watch it and read it. Okay, so this is a really amazing chart. This is ChatGPT, 800 million MAUs within 24 months. Unheard of. X still never hit a billion MAUs ever. There's only three or four other apps that have ever done that, and they took, years to break that. About 7 years on average to get to a billion users, and looks like OpenAI will do that within 3 years. So fastest ever growth by far. People used to be very impressed with how fast TikTok did it, but this is really unprecedented. Yeah, so major slope change after the reasoning models are here. Half of all US businesses pay for AI now. Google page views are dropping. Will we get new hyperscalers? There's CoreWeave, Lambda as well, and possibly going to see Amazon shrink. Amazon's been weak in the GPU cloud game. Yeah, there's no quantum graph. Quantum doesn't work. Let's get back to reality. Yeah, I think Google has, let's see, Google might have, yeah, okay, Google fixed it. Google had it down 75% earlier. So SaaS took a long time, is what they're saying. Fair. Analysts were skeptical about cloud. It's only been the third year for AI. They said the market's expensive, tariffs are scary, and there's some deficits. I'm going to skip some of this stuff. It's all stuff we know. But you can read it if you'd like. Okay, AI's impact on the economy. They think will be very positive. This is great. What I've learned from 30 years in public markets investing. Again, one of the best hedge fund investors ever. This is a very, very great thing to see. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Trees don't grow to the sky. Very interesting. Consensus ideas are great. They're often pretty good. The meek don't inherit the earth. That's typically true. BFIs are rare. Let's see.
I think I know what BFI stands for, but I probably shouldn't say it out loud.
Yeah, Duncan, yeah. Events can scare, but trends define. Reserve the right to change your mind. These are all things bag holders don't do. Bag holders never change their mind. Bag holders put all their eggs in one basket. And bag holders believe their trees will grow to the sky. Privates. The world is definitely changing. There's more funding sources for privates than ever before. AI is more than half of the funding for privates this year. We're approaching the 2021 peak of venture dollars deployed. Half of the dollars are going to the top 10 companies. There's $1 trillion of privately held companies. It's abundant capital for the largest and best companies. OpenAI raised $40 billion so far this year, which is bigger than all of the prior 8 years largest raises. So the largest raise, including their own, in 2023. But in 2024, Databricks raised $10 billion. WeWork raised $5 billion in 2019. They raised more than all of these combined. Interestingly, some of these weren't great companies. WeWork, Rivian, Lyft was okay. Waymo was pretty good. Epic is okay. Databricks has been good. So it's kind of mixed. The biggest raises have not necessarily been the best stocks. Anthropic took 2 months to add $1 billion in revenue. I don't know that that's an important metric, to be honest, but it's interesting. All kinds of different fundings here. Really interesting, bizarre, structured fundings. Meta paying 20 times revenue, and Google paying 46 times revenue for 2 acquisitions. Pretty wild. Top 10 publicly traded AI companies have only gone up 10% in a year, but privately held have doubled. So this is why public markets are a little bit fugazi. So OpenAI doubled, Anthropic tripled. Those stocks are not publicly held. Same thing with Databricks. CoreWeave obviously was the one we all should have bought, didn't get. The rest of these are private. But yeah, I really should have did CoreWeave, right? In hindsight. Was an amazing chart to me. The eyeballs, minutes per day. So this is a very hard thing to accomplish, but the now growing 30 minutes a day on ChatGPT, for me it's probably like 3 or 4 hours. It's on the website, Anthony. Okay. Yeah, I figured, when you occasionally get them released, that's exciting. Usually these never get released. Um, yeah, most of the revenue is coming from OpenAI, a little bit from Anthropic there. Together, pretty big TAM, obviously, for AI. Every doctor uses AI. Um, Lawyers are now using AI. Microsoft may be done hiring. Amazon said yesterday they might be done hiring. Um, there's other growth. SpaceX, Anduril, Revolut, they really like. Ramp raised yesterday. They like Deal a lot. Rippling. Um, Revolut is one of the largest banks in Europe. 40 million retail customers, pretty incredible. Here's Deal. Ramp. Interesting. Oh, okay, so this was probably the most interesting slide. These are today's top 50 tech companies, and then they literally did a 2050 top 50 tech companies, which was incredible. Um, this is the or 2030, not 2050. They called it the Fantastic 40. Let's take a look at this. This is wild. So the biggest company in 2030, according to them, is Microsoft at 6 trillion almost. Nvidia at 5.6 trillion would be number two. They say Bitcoin would be at 5.1 trillion, which let's see, there's 21 million, right? So there's what's that? 250K Bitcoin. Amazon 3.6 trillion, Meta 2.8 trillion, Taiwan Semi 2.7, Tesla 2.6. That's more than a double for Tesla. Broadcom 1.9, OpenAI 1.6. There's no Apple, no Google here. Oracle 1.5, Tencent a trillion, SpaceX 900 bill, Netflix 800 bill, ARM 800, Ethereum 700, ByteDance 700. That's TikTok. I think they're not that far away from that anyway. Palantir 500. I guess they're still a ways away from that. Palantir 500 bill. That sounds right to me, and it's only a double in 5 years. So think about that if you're a Palantir shareholder. ServiceNow. You can find it on my Twitter. Make sure you follow and subscribe. This is one of my favorite hedge funds in the world. This presentation, Co2. Stripe, 500 billion, really exciting for Collison's. That's a 5x roughly, I think. ASML, Intuitive, Alibaba, Xiaomi, Salesforce, Spotify at 360 is a triple from here. Shopify, I would agree with that one. That's a big win from here. Intuit, Databricks, which is private, that's a 5x or so from last value, maybe even a 6x or 7x. Anthropic, same thing. That's a 6 or 7x, 330 billion market cap. Be one of the world's biggest companies. GE, Apple, Avenue, CrowdStrike, Mercado Libre, Uber, XAI, that would be another 5 or 6x. Booking, S&P Global, Kettle, which is a battery company, Binance 250. That's not a huge win for Binance, and Revolut again. I think they're talking their book on that. But anyway, find that on my X. Really cool presentation where you get an insight into how hedge funds think. Um, yeah, maybe you could argue that's a little bit bearish, Jim. Yeah, you could argue that.